ammo into culture. War and loaded ammo. They want anti. For ruling everything like it's Seattle. And they want anyone who's fighting to be dead and canceled. They want rainbows in the classrooms and 15 different bathrooms and white guys that hate black dudes. They want war, they don't want peace. They want fentanyl in our streets. They want borders to be weak. I swear the devil lives in California. He a politician. He passing bills that bring chaos and division. Yeah, the devil lives in California. Should be in prison. He got horns, but he tries to keep them hidden. Cause the devil is a Democrat. And we don't play that. They say that. They love America. We know it ain't that. Cause the devil is a Democrat. And we ain't with it. We ain't switching. Y'all are tripping. I guess God just built us different.
Is difficult. Something that the other person you mentioned, Adam Schiff, didn't do. Adam weaponized the committee. He used it to get Devin thrown off of it. He alleged all kinds of things, and he made outright false statements. And now he's my U.S. Senator. On the other hand, Rick is, like you said, he's keeping his head down. He's doing his job. And when he comes on, he says the material appropriate has been referred to the Department of Justice for appropriate action. And you couldn't be more accurate than that. This is a prosecution decision that has to be made based on the ability to bring a credible case for a jury's consideration. And that's what I want to say, because it's a balance. It's not, can you get a conviction against Hillary Clinton? You might never get a conviction against some of these high exposure people, simply because somebody will get on that jury and refuse to ever find them guilty no matter what. But you do have to weigh it. Are you bringing a credible case, a very strong case, a case you should clearly win? And then will you go through the expense and time to do it? And I leave that up to Pam Bondi and her team to do. What I do see from the previous segment is, look, we had an open crime that made Watergate seem like a Monopoly board game by comparison. It was a one-time dirty trick that actually was, I'm talking about Watergate, was similar to previous dirty tricks done by the other party. This isn't. This is weaponizing national security. This is releasing information that hurt the credibility of America around the world. This is deliberately trying to adversely affect not just an election for one person, but one party creating an environment in which the other party could never win. And I think that's where democracy is at risk. You've got to stop, and you've got to punish people who are not just going after the political opponent with a dirty trick. That goes on in politics, and I've seen it firsthand. But when they actually are trying to weaponize the whole system against the party, that is dangerous, and that's what really was done with the dossier. It wasn't just Trump. They were trying to essentially wipe out one party for their benefit.
Congressman, you are from California. You must know so well the tactics of Adam Schiff and his Sith in training, Eric Swalwell, when it comes to leaking classified information, and now the evidence that has been laid out by the FBI in black and white, according to the whistleblower reports, is damning and demonstrable. And you can also, of course, see them go and commit belligerently these crimes on national TV. There's plenty of supercuts of Adam Schiff doing this with regularity, and all of the evidence seems to line up perfectly with the whistleblower statements. What do you think should happen to these individuals? Obviously, these are criminal acts, and the Espionage Act does not have a statute of limitations that is 5 years. It is 10 years, so it's well within the statute of limitations, leaking classified information. What do you make of this?
Well, sort of in a parallel track of my experience bringing people of power, current or former, in front of my committees as chairman and so on, and the parallel of the FBI and the Department of Justice. Look, these individuals need to be brought in front of and placed under oath to answer questions. And if they answer them honestly or refuse to answer them, they're protected. But the world should know that. On the other hand, if they answer them in any false way, they need to be held accountable. As you know, very often it's not the crime, it's the false statement after, it's the cover-up. And in this case, can you imagine if either Eric Swalwell or Adam Schiff were brought to answer the questions about when you said this, what did you mean? How did you know it? Why are you saying today that you believe that when in fact here's evidence that you knew it wasn't true? If you're asked to answer those questions, you're probably going to take the fifth. And I think it at least allowed the public to know that they are hiding something. They're hiding their past wrongful activity. They may not be prosecutable in some cases, but they should be held accountable. They shouldn't be in high-ranking positions. You know, Eric Swalwell, if the Democrats retake the House, he'll probably be back on the Intel Committee. He might be the chairman. That is a scary thought.
Oof. Yes, I mean, I think he's currently on the Foreign Affairs Committee, a committee that you serve on, and something that Eric Swalwell has personal experience in, having foreign affairs.
Okay, there's a play on words that is too soon, perhaps. Look, he does a lot of things that I disagree with. One of them is he played fast and loose with people working who were not U.S. citizens in his office. Whether he had additional inappropriate activity isn't even the point. The point is that his actions in his official capacity, how vitriolic he is and self-righteous he is, really, I find it as humorous as you do when you look at his past mistakes, either sins of omission or deliberate. Having said that, look, these are both powerful individuals, Californians. My governor is currently trying to change a system that the voters voted for in order to wipe out Republicans, take majority in the House, and seal the fate of a nation. So, they're just part of the team in California that doesn't seem to care about the Constitution.
Can you give me a very quick update on that? Apparently it's going to be a big announcement today. How does that stand in California, the gerrymandering? It's already gerrymandered within an inch of its life, the state of California. But I guess you can squeeze blood from a stone? I don't know.
Well, they probably can. The nonpartisan commission, which has been in place for 2 decades, most of 2 decades, I don't love it. I don't think it's perfect, but I can tell you this. It already gave us, with 40% of the voters in California being Republicans, only 17% of the representatives. They'd like to take that to zero. They'd like to take a situation in which, essentially, in a 60-40 state with the Democrats having control, they would like to have 0 Republicans. And they've come pretty close with creative gerrymandering. And what that says to people, your listeners and viewers around the country is, should we have one man, one vote, and only one time? Should the winner take all and then change the system so the other side can never win? Or should the intent of our founding fathers be a back and forth, nobody ever being fully out of power and nobody ever having total power? The latter seems to be what has done well for us for 250 years, and I would hope that the voters in California see that and double down on what they already voted for, which was an independent commission.
Yes, but we all know what a complete joke that is. We've all seen it. Maps,
wait a second,
like
Benny. I'm going to come to the defense. Now, I'm going to come to the defense of my own state.
Please.
We recently had Prop 36. It didn't have much funding, and the governor had opposed bringing any kind of punishment back to people who roll in with a basket and steal $900 out of the grocery store or any other place, liquor store in some cases. And you know what? The voters resoundingly voted no. They wanted to have punishment for crimes again in California. So I think voters, regardless of their political persuasion, see fair and unfair, right and wrong relatively well in my state. And I'm pretty confident that they're going to see it in this case.
Totally. California, according to the 2030 census, would lose a number of seats, something like around 4 or 5, I think, based on population reallocation. Is that correct?
That's correct. They're but for skating at the end instead of losing one. For the first time in its entire history, would have lost 3 or 4. And in the next census, thanks to the leadership of our governor, they will. I mean, the population is continuing to flee. The only place fleeing fast could be New York City.
Harmeet Dillon's joining in just a moment, so I'm sure she has plenty to say about that. She's from the Bay Area, and I know she has quite a few tales. You are on the Judiciary Committee. Just a final question here. You're on the Judiciary Committee. I'm not sure if that would have any type